Hello everyone, I'm Olivier, product. Hello everyone, I'm Olivier, one of the product owners of the accounting team, and I'm here today to talk to you about the new locking wizard and a little bit also about the new secure entry wizard. So first of all, here is the QR code if you need to ask questions on the pad. If you don't have any time to answer to all the questions, it's not an issue because you can just come to the booth and ask us all what you need to have as answer or as feedback. We are there for the 3 days, so don't hesitate to come to us. So first, I will talk about the lock date wizard. I think that you all know that in Odoo you already have a lock date and the possibility to lock all the sales and purchase, to lock the tax entries, and all that kind of thing. But we saw that sometimes when the accountant goes to the accounting and want to lock the period for the sales, for example, you want to lock only the sales and not the sales and the purchase. But today it was not available to do that. And it's an issue because in Odoo, as you know, everybody can use the application at the same time. So it's wonderful for a lot of product like post, like website and all that kind, and manufacturing and all that kind of thing. But when you verify the entry, you need to block it to be sure that the tax report will be conformed to the entry that you lock. So it's why now we have this one. We have something like this, and this screen is a typical log date with an accounting in a company. So you can see in 2 days, they log all the information, then they have a new invoice, so they need to unlock it, then they lock it again, they have a new information from someone else, they lock it, they unlock it again, and again, they lock it. And so it's really a nightmare to manage it after. And moreover, we have no view of what changed during the unlock period. So today we made a new locking version. It's a new wizard, and we have three main improvements on this. The first one is that you can lock by type of journal. So you can lock the sales, for example, just after the beginning of the month. Like that, you block all the sales for September, and you are sure that nobody's will come to change an amount, an item, or a quantity, or something like this. After some days, you can also log, for example, the purchase because you leave 1 or 2 weeks to be sure to have all the purchase sent by the vendors. And after that, you can make the tax return if you want. The second point we improve about that is this one. So when you change the date and you come back in the past, you can create exception for that log date in particular. So here, for example, I have an exception to the log purchase, and so you can see just under the log to everyone, you have the exception line added. You can choose in this one if you want the exception only for you or for everyone, and you can also choose if you want it for 5 minutes, a quarter, 1 hour, or for without any time. And last point, you can also add a comment to say, okay, I need to unlock the period because I just received, for example, a new vendor bill, and I need to input it before the tax report. The exception line is just over the hard lock date because the hard lock date cannot have any exception, but we will see that just after. The third point we had is the audit the exception. So in the REST company form, you have the possibility in the chatter to have this information. Here is the explain about the change of the log date for the sales. So you can see that 1 minute ago, Michel admin changed the date to the 25th of September for the log date, and he do that only for him, and it's available until the September, more or less 1 hour. And he say, okay, it's because I forgot one invoice. And you can see that exception is in blue because you can click on it and have all the log of the information of what changed. And so you can audit the exception and see what changed and who changed what. So even if you unlock it for everyone, you can directly see someone that maybe not need to change something, and you can adapt it at this time. But let's dive in the application to see a little bit more how it works. So you have here in the accounting, you have the log dates. You see that the wizard changed a bit before, as before. So you can just here say, okay, I will add a log date. I'm a bit distracted and I do it for tomorrow. And then I have a small warning to say, okay, you can do it for the future, but are you sure that you want to do that? It's really that what you accepted? And I also can, if you go there, for example, you have also banner to help you to say, okay, you want to lock the period for the purchase, but we saw that there is still a draft invoice in that purchase. You can click on review, then you can see all the draft invoice. And if you check there, you see that effectively the accounting date is the 1st of October, so it's before the log date that I put. But whatever, I will do that. I go back to the log date. I will do that for the 1st of October. For the 2nd of October, sorry. Up. I'll do the same for the sales. I log the two. I save it. I will just make a small refresh to be sure. And then you can see that there is a banner on the invoice to say, okay, you can input it, you can do that, but the accounting entry will be done on the 3rd of October because your log date is till the 2nd of October. If you go to another bill, for example, an older one, like this one, for example, and you try to reset it to draft, you have invalid operation because you cannot, because the period is locked. So we can do an exception for us to just adapt that. We go to the log dates. We go here on the purchase log dates because it's those ones that I want to change. I can come back on, for example, the 20th of September. You can see here that I have the exception for me or for everyone. And you have here the time. You can say 5 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, or forever. You can also add a reason, new invoice, for example. And you can click on save. Then you can now here click on reset to draft, and then it's available because you are Michel admin, so you have the exception for you, and you can adapt the quantity, for example. So I go there, I adapt the quantity, I confirm it, and then it's okay, I can save it. I go to the draft bill, for example, the other one, and I can here create a new one. Add the date I want, so for example, end of last month, I will just add an item. I can confirm it, and it's well booked in the accounting date of the end of the last month because I had the exception for me today. If you go on the company form, so it's the same database, but it's easier to do that like this, you can see here that you have the exception for Michel admin. I click on the exception, and I can see that the exception is created at this time and end at this time, and it's still now active. I can click on the Audit Tool button just there to see all the things that change. So you can see that I modify an invoice, I change the quantity, and here I create a new one. No, this one is one I modify, and this one is create. You can also, so the good point here is that if I forget it in 10 minutes, the log date will be put again at the date of before. But if I want, I can say, okay, I finished today, so I just click on revoke, and then the log date is directly put again on the last one. If you use the tax report, as before, you can do the tax report of September, for example. You can make the closing entry, post it, I post the text entry, and then the log date will be automatically filled with the good information, of course. So you can go there and you can see that the log date is directly done. If you make a hard log date, I will do it, but in the past, be sure to not block my databases. So you can go there, for example, and say, okay, I will do it for the end of Augustus, and you have a message here in red to say, okay, you can do that, but this change is irreversible. You cannot change it anymore after. So I did it, I save, and as you can see, when I come back, and I try to change that before you cannot change it anymore. You cannot have exception on that. So that's the first point for the new wizard of new log date. And the second thing that I think it's important to show you also is the new security wizard. Because I don't know if you know the hash, but if you work on day-to-day with the hash, each time you confirm an invoice, it's locked and you cannot change anymore. You cannot reset to draft, and it's in the inalterability chain. And I don't know if you do that, but if you do it, you can see that if you are a little bit distracted, we can make an error. For example, you are inputting an invoice, then a colleague comes to you and asks you a coffee. You say, okay, I go with him, and you come back and you just say, oh, just no, damn, I just click on confirm by habit, and it's not the good one. So if the hash is done, you cannot change anything after. You need to make a credit note, you need to make a new invoice, and so it's really a nightmare if you have a lot of sympathetic colleagues who ask you coffee every time of the day. So now we had this security wizard to secure entries at one specific date. We had it, in fact, for the little story, it's for the country Germany because they need it for the GUBD. So, in fact, in this country, they say, okay, you can input document, then modify it if you keep trace on it. So you have the audit trail for that, you have the chatter for that, and at one time, when you send the report, you need to secure the result and have an interoperability chain of that input. So it's why we add this. Here you can see it's in debug because, as I said, we did it for Germany. So in Germany, it's available directly in the application, but in the other country, you need to activate it in the debug mode. But once it's activated and once one secure date, is put, it's available without the debug mode. And if another country needs it, we will add it also to those one. And how you can see it, it's quite easy. In every invoice, you have the right of the post status, you have a lock. If it's open, you can modify it. If it's closed, it's locked. I think it's quite easy to understand. And of course, we added some filter to validate that. As I said, you also have the inalienability report. It's the difference between the log date also, because you have that report to print and to send to the specific organization if you need it. And you can see here all the journal with all the sequence prefix. And the restrict column just say, okay, those journals are on the accounting, but are not on the hash method, at the old hash method. So directly when you click confirm, it's directly hashed. But you have just on the side the check that say that, okay, but all the entries are correctly hashed. But don't worry, if you need to use the old hash method, you can still use it. In this interoperability report, you also have the information about the first hash of the sequence and the last hash of the sequence and the prefix of every journal. We can also go in the application to see a little bit how it works. So here it's already there because I already secured the entry. Like you can see here, you have the lock just there. And if you go, for example, in an invoice of customers, an old one, we have the lock closed because it's secure. The security of the entry doesn't mean that you cannot make something on those invoice. If you need to add a payment, for example, you can just click here and just add the payment. That you can do, but you cannot change the invoice. You can add information, not linked to the invoice, but not change the invoice. So you can go there, secure entries, and here is the date. The date here is the date here is the date of the day before the last security entries in the application. So here, my last one is in the 21 of September, but we put by default the 20th of September to be sure to avoid error. So I can go there and say, okay, I will secure till today. Then I have a warning to say, be careful, because when you secure entries, you secure the sales, the purchase, but also the bank. So you have here a message to say, okay, you have bank, but not yet match with other thing. So you can go there, validate them. Can go back here. We can go today and click secure entries, and then all the entries are secure in the application. So if you go to the vendor bill, now you have all the bills here. And if I just click on the filter here to say I just want to see the non-secure entries, I click it, but I didn't have any more because I secure all today. And last thing, in the settings, you have the inalterability report that you can download here to have the inalterability chain to show it to everyone, to the government need it. Okay. And so if you have any question, I put again the QR code to ask question on the pad if you need.
So they asked, can you automatically set secure entries on the day after to secure everything as of yesterday?
No, it's always the day before, but you can change it easily on the date picker.
Okay. Will the audit trail only show the updates in the closed period or also the updates from the open period?
The audit trail show the change of all the periods, but the audit trail button on the secure on the log dates that I show you. So in the log dates, in the exception, when you click on audit trail, then it's only for the change during the exception. But if you have the audit trail installed, you have the audit trail on all the on all the inputs you put.
Okay. How to adjust an invoice without impacting the closed period?
You need to make a credit note to adjust the invoice to adjust it. You cannot change the invoice anymore if you block the period or if you secure the invoice.
Okay. Is it possible to fill a lock date for everyone, even if there are still bookings with the status draft? Miscellaneous example, set a lock date till October 31st, but you still have draft bookings from September 30th.
Yeah, as you can, I show it to you just before. You can set the log date with draft entries, but if you save the draft entries after, if you confirm it after, it will move to the first date after the log date.
Okay. Can you also block stock moves after the lock date?
In the stock module, I think, but not in the accounting. The accounting is linked with the log date.
Okay. Can you add exceptions by user and not just an admin?
No, for now it's just for myself or for everyone, but it's a good feedback that we can take note.
Okay. They say the wizard is all about closing. Why don't you create a closing object model for a specific kind of period, which guides you through the closing? The outcome could be reports or exports to the tax authorities. Is that something? Also contains the logs documentation, happens during closing, add security. Is that something Odoo's looking to do?
No, for now, no. If I understand well, no, it's not yet done.
Okay. Is it possible to make a recurrent rule to lock sales, as an example, after the third day of each month?
Not yet, but also it's a feedback that we can check if there is an interest on that also.
Okay.
But maybe it's not every time the third days of the month, because you have sometimes you need to do it the first open days of the month, so it's quite complex to do.
Okay. Is there a difference between the purchase or sales lock date and the tax return lock date?
The tax return lock dates locks also the miscellaneous operation, and the purchase and sales lock dates will lock only the sales or the purchase, depending of which one you choose.
Okay. Is it possible to deactivate those options for hard lock or hash to avoid people to activate it by mistake or by mistake?
Yeah, the hard lock date, no, it's in the lock wizard, but you can block the lock wizard and to give it only to a person who knows that they do. And the hash, it's settings also, so it's so depending of the rights of the user.
Okay. Is there an actual Joe BD export for Germany?
Not yet, but we work on it, and it's in well progress.
Okay. If they have a multi-currency company where they have accounting in USD, but they invoice clients in a different thing, CLP, but the bill invoices also arrive in CLP, is there a month-end closing model for USD accounting and the import of the bank statement in CLP?
It's not really linked to the log date, but I think that I don't really understand. Maybe for that specific case, you can just come to the booth.
Okay.
It's on the hall 7, so feel free to come and to ask us about that, and we can check.
What's the difference between a lock date and secure entries?
The log date is something in which you lock all the inputs, so you cannot add new input or change it, but you don't have the inalterability chain and the inalterability report that I show you at the end. That's specific to the secure entries, so it's a hash version. So the secure entries allow you to be sure that it didn't change anything, even in the data in the database.
Okay.
in the backend.
Once an invoice has been secured, can we update the turnover account thanks to the mass edit in journal items?
No.
Okay. What happens if they close the tax report, then create an exception to record a forgotten entry? Will the system be in a position to adjust the tax amount already realized?
You need to do a new tax report to refresh it.
Okay. Is it technically possible to unlock the hard lock date?
No. The hard lock date is, as its name, hard lock date.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't see anything else.
Thanks, everyone.